We feel better.
You detail-oriented people. All right, let's get started. I don't know who's all gonna be here, just because I think some people are still up at the cabin or doing whatever they're doing for fun shenanigans, or it was a really late night with fireworks. Right. Let's start out with something good. What's good? Bucket fills.
I got to see my grandma. I haven't seen her in like 2 years, so that's fun.
Oh, super fun. Awesome. What else? Like no one relaxed, had fun this weekend. There's nothing good going on, and everybody's like really tired. Your weather is warm.
Tired.
You're tired. Well, I'm grateful that Lydia's like the top one right now. Already one little boat. So I might go on to my second one. What else?
Order.
Oh.
Being a nerve wracking and all. See about, so. Mostly ready.
It out. Like. Many.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
And you did that yourself?
Myself and some friends. 3 dumpsters of personal property.
3
Wow.
dumpsters?
I have before videos. I literally have a video. I went to the house right after closing with my videographer and filmed all of it, including the cheese on a pan on the oven.
And you met the owner?
He's 92 years old. He unfortunately passed away in November. I was really hoping he'd be able to come to the house.
So I'm curious, when you go into a house like that, what is, like, you got to talk to him, right? It was just he didn't want to get rid of anything, or like,
He has.
I mean, there's a difference between like, oh, you kept all of your kids' things like Heather, or like walking through rows of files.
No, so his situation was, Howie was 92, his wife Audrey had passed. They had moved into a nursing home probably a year and a half prior and let their grandson move into the house, who absolutely destroyed it. So there was like Howie wouldn't go into the house when it was shown to me because it was too upsetting to him. So he and Audrey had like left 60 years of personal property in the house that my belief was at some point in time was probably much better organized.
Gotcha.
Now, don't get me wrong, there was a lot, like they kept everything, but that was like that generation.
Yeah.
Where it was gross was because of the grandson and his buddy living there and like just not taking care of the house whatsoever. Fast food everywhere, dog poop everywhere. Found a couple used condoms, great.
Oh, we got the whole shebang. Awesome. I would, wow.
Making grandparents proud.
Yeah, I went in there either. Okay, well, that's awesome that it's going on the market and looks much better now.
It's quite different.
What's your,
Well, we're waiting on the measurements right now from the floor plans, but we have it ready to go coming soon today, then active this weekend.
All right, what else? Who's gonna follow that good thing out?
but I'm gonna thank everyone in this room for having their CE done and having their MAR dues paid. Appreciate you.
Very much. She appreciates you very much.
As I'm eyeing everyone in here. Oh yeah, you guys are all on the good list. Okay.
Eric,
Fill Emily's bucket. She
man, Emily is just, I mean, you were just crushing it.
put together a great contract this morning and really worked out well, didn't it? Awesome.
Can we talk about how many hits you guys are getting on your promo video? Like, I don't know, I'm just curious.
I don't know either.
Okay, all right.
I'm sure it's
I'm sure it's almost viral.
Probably viral by now.
Probably viral.
it's probably viral.
Have you guys seen their video?
I have not.
I think I shared it on this means that you guys don't look at our Instagram stories, so thank you.
Not true. but-
I'm just kidding. No, it was shared last week.
Maybe Instagram just isn't feeding us your content.
Shut
Who would see this fun?
Yeah, just can we just talk about it? I really wish we could just stream it to the TV. It's Derek and Emily both working out and they are pushing some weights. Like, I was like, dang.
Well, I got your squat one.
Like, yeah, and their squats, perfect. I mean, the depth was awesome, lats were engaged, like everything was on.
I need to learn.
Like, I was like, man, I need to do a video like this. All right, one more thing. We got one more good thing I know we do. What do we got?
Taught my puppy to swim.
Oh.
I love that.
He jumped in. He jumped in, yeah.
That's so
Took a
great.
little coaxing, but we
Mhm.
got him to jump in after a buoy thing.
How
Kind of
big
puppy?
is your puppy?
He's a lab mix. We rescued him. He's about 45 pounds.
Okay.
So he's 8'9".
Well, we
So-
took one of our dogs to the cabin for the first time, the 120-pound Ridgeback. And he didn't realize that the dock does not stop. So proceeded to walk off the dock and has never swam in his entire life. And it was actually, in my opinion, who's Jason? As I'm saying that. He learned, it was one of those where like you take a leap, right? And like this dog goes in and like the moment that the dog goes in, it's like, this is not gonna know how to swim, right? And it's like intuitive, like my other dog does not know how to swim, like legitimately would drown. Like, it's like, I hate this, I'm wet, doesn't like to shower. But it managed to swim and even get on the paddleboard.
Yeah, it was pretty, didn't take much to figure it out.
That's awesome. All right. What's the next slide? All right, so again, this is the calendar. I will say it every single time. You can go into any of those and you can just click on it and it takes you right to the Eventbrite. So at any point in time, you can, let's say if there is an Eventbrite, otherwise it'll give you the information on each of those. So I know a lot of people are like, hey, how do I sign up for this? If it is something for the collective or our offices, it will be on one of these calendars. If you go onto the collective website, that doesn't have our trainings necessarily if there's extra ones, but that's always a place to look for it too. Because I know sometimes we don't look at emails or we erase emails or we just don't see them. Those are two places now to be able to find the training calendar at any point in time. Cool? All right, block party. So we're putting this in here. So we had the Xerox do it last week, right? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So next week is the next one. And then we have August as well. So if you guys want to sign up as a team and individual to host the block party, we'll pass that around for you to sign up.
Also always at the front desk, so, or you could email Lydia. But yes, it's always at the front
All
desk.
right, Mega Camp. Who has signed up for Mega Camp already? Derek. Kevin. Derek. Kevin. Okay, Rick's going to as well on the ALC, and it'll be amazing when you're there. If you haven't, anyone that's gone, why would you tell another agent to go to this? I mean, I can say it, but I tell you guys why you should go to trainings all the time. So I'd like to hear from someone that's been to something like this. So,
Mega Camp is it's only like a day and a half. And it is a great opportunity to listen to Gary Keller for a day and a half. And I think Gary just knows so much about real estate and has a great perspective on everything. I think because he generally leads the entire thing, I just think it's extremely valuable. So not to mention a great chance to see what the company is all about on a national or international.
I think also just real estate in general, what it's doing. I think he is so openly and brutally honest on what he feels. And again, right, a lot of times speculation. We don't know what the future is going to hold in real estate. But I would say 9 times out of 10, when he says something about what's coming up or what he's noticing, That's usually what's happening or what is going to happen. And he's pretty honest about it. Like, if you need a mindset check, go to that, because I guarantee you're gonna think that he's talking right to you about whatever limiting belief that you have, or the thing that you have to change to get your butt into business. Kevin, I know you had your hand. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would say, I think Gary Keller really is the spot on it where he talks. This is his time to not talk to any leadership, not talk to anything, but to talk directly to the agent, and he'll interview different agents that are doing different pieces. And it's not to copy necessarily what they're doing, but to look at what's been working, what are the patterns of things that are working in people. Another thing he really does is really great is he takes us through all the numbers on a national and really North America kind of spot. He talks about global stuff as well, and we can look at what are the trends that kind of tell us of things that are coming, and how have people adjusted to that differently. So it's like an intense coaching with, I mean, one of the most influential people in real estate. And I think that's really a good thing. And by the way, it's also a ton of fun. It's also a spot where you're gonna go and have some of the best barbecue in the world. It's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Networking with other agents.
Yeah.
Rick, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I like that they separated into different panels, different areas of real estate. So if you're farming a neighborhood, they've got, some of the top agents that are successful in that specific area of marketing. Same thing for technology. So if you're utilizing technology or social media, they separate it. And then you've got specialists who are just extremely good at just that, and that are giving you some new ideas, which I think is super helpful. Because I'm out of the 5 panels on one day, there might be 2 of them that are going to be super helpful for me, because that's what I do in my business, and that's really good.
What I think is really, really helpful in this is that we sit there, as I was looking at, social media this weekend, there was this joke about how there's no one that feeds your social media feeds more than an acquaintance from high school that's now in real estate. And it is so true, right? And I said, so as you go through and you compare yourself to, it's probably like the desire map as I'm reading that on the doc, and I'm just like, who cares about all these other people, right? Like, what do you want? But we see all these top performing teams, right? And it's like, oh man, half the time their numbers aren't even right, by the way, because I can actually look up their numbers, and what they're putting out there is actually inaccurate. Okay, because if your team's doing 100 million, not everyone on your team is selling 50 million when there's 5 people on it. Just so you know. But we compare ourselves to that. Like, look at this team, and then you get sucked into that, right? Gary actually took that to a different level, where for a long time, he'd have people up on that stage, and it was like, wow, I can't believe this. Then he was like, wait, hold on a second. Are they actually running their business as a business? And are they actually profiting? So now you aren't even allowed up onto that stage without going through your P&L with Gary. So that means that you're not making 3 million GCI and only taking home 200,000. Like, that's not, and you might think that those numbers are exaggerated, but they're not. Like, that's real, right? Some people are putting all this up, but they're spending just as much as coming in, either on marketing, on leads, whatever it is. So you're really hearing from the best of the best that he has kind of combed through to make sure that they're running their business like a true business. Anything else on Mega Camp at all? Who's thinking about going? And you don't even have to raise your hand. If you're thinking about going and you're like, man, it just seems like a lot of money, right? And I'm guessing some of you are thinking, oh, I don't have that right now. If that's the case, please feel free and come talk to us about that in regards to the actual ticket. Because I would not want someone to be able to miss out on something that's going to, elevate their business, because they're afraid of what the down payment cost is for it to get involved in it. Is that fair?
People are going through our office.
Like 5 right now.
Are there any females going that you want to share?
I can look if there are or not. I mean, I'm a female. I'm going. And I don't email. Like, just in case, I was like, God, I don't know if there's any females. Oh, wait, actually. Any questions around Mega Camp or, you know, why you would go or anything that someone hasn't went to it? And you can ask online too.
I just opened the chat.
Are they doing it online again?
I don't think they're doing, I think they're pulling everything from online, which I would say going to Mega Camp versus having it virtual was a very different experience. And I actually become very overwhelmed in large groups like that. And I'm like, but it's different. It's a very cool thing to be there in person. For sure. All right. Oh, you just put this in. I didn't even look at this. I was like, oh, you just put this in. Okay, so what I wanted to do, because I didn't know how many of you were going to be here today, I want to open this up to kind of a mid-year review, not only for numbers for us as each of our businesses. If you have a pen and paper, can you take it out? If you have your notes on your phone, take it out, computer, whatever it is. I'm going to ask you guys a few questions in regards to where you believe your business is right now and where you see it going in the future. So first question is, where are you tracking with your goals right now? If you don't know that, this would be a great time to note in there, look at what my goal was for the year and where my closed units are and what my pipeline looks like or my pendings. Okay, because I know some of you might not know that, right? And that's okay. There's zero judgment. This is giving you the opportunity to take a look at that later on today.
And your slides have like a 3-month. So.
Okay, cool. Number 2 is, what did I do really well the first 6 months of this year for your business? Number 3 is, what is one thing that you can improve on going into the second half of the year? And then when you're done, just with those 3, you can look up at me and
What was number 2, please? You were really well the first 6 months. What was number 3? I was too focused on.
something that you can improve on or change going into the second half of the year. Got 1 more minute. All right, as you ask yourself kind of those three questions, without ranking a 7, I want you to rank 2 things. 3 things. Your effort out of 10 for the first 6 months. Your consistency out of 10. And then your mindset. Next to each other for you to talk in class. I know you two. I was you two. All right, who wants to share? Or who'd be willing to share? Okay.
Do you want all 6 questions?
I'd like you to kind of go overview the first 3, right? And then we can kind of see. Because then I think it'll be interesting to see where you rate yourself or grade yourself.
So the first question was, where are we tracking with our goals right now? I said we're on trend, but we'd like to make that trend happen faster now. Do you want me to give numbers?
What does that mean? So that somebody knows like what that means. I mean, I know what you're speaking of when you say that, but what do you mean by that?
So like the big metric we're tracking for right now is to be at 1 million in GCI by October 15th.
Okay,
Which will then, we'll end the year
October what?
15th.
Okay,
We're currently at 787.
okay, so that gives you how many days? That gives you July,
And to be clear, that's
August,
both
September.
And pending GCI, the 787.
So 3.5 months, right? So what is that? 105 days?
So we've worked it back far enough to know that we needed to get to 16 pendings by July 20th to hit that goal.
Okay,
I think as of this weekend, we're at 4 of the 16. So,
Okay. okay. Okay,
so I would say we're on trend for the annual goal, but we're trying to accelerate that is what that all means.
okay. Because is there a gap right now on,
It's not a very big one.
okay, okay, okay,
Um, 2, what did I do really well for the first 6 months of the business? Delegating, simplifying, and managing our financials. So to me, that means delegating is getting things off my plate sooner with our ops team and also getting buyers off my plate faster with our agents. Simplifying, there was just stuff that I feel like we've overcomplicated. So just get all the crap out of the way that it's just so clear and concise.
what's done?
I'd say anything from our tracking, just correct me if I'm wrong, with our tracking to, even just like our process and how we.
Your systems, maybe?
Like our transaction systems,
Okay,
and then. I feel like those are the big things.
okay. And what's something that you can work on?
Lead generation and coaching.
Like you're coaching your agents? Okay,
We found some gaps in our coaching that I think I'm watching trends with each of our agents. Where are they getting their business? Where is business falling out? And identifying where each of them.
did you guys hear like consistent words that she said? Tracking, trends, gaps. Are you looking for these things in your business? My question. Because I know when I was an agent, when I wasn't doing that, what I was looking for is what's the next deal, right? It's like you don't look backwards and see where you are. You're just looking at like, what's the next thing? Because you're usually in a place of lack. Right? Like, is anyone like so far ahead of their goal right now that they're not thinking about like, what do I need to do? Is anyone? No? Yes? Did we lose our voice over the weekend? Cool. But those are things, like, you're running it as a business, and it's taken time to get to that piece, and it's not without mistakes and AKA failures, right? All right, so let's go to the three things for rankings. So effort.
Effort, I gave myself a 9. I wouldn't say though that I'm proud of that number.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes I use tenacity and like lean back on, like I lean back on like how much time I put into work versus that's where I'm trying to like delegate and be simpler. Like just because I put in a huge work week doesn't mean it's more productive.
Got it. Okay.
So I wouldn't say I love that number.
This is consistency. I just can't spell it currently.
I give myself an 8.
Okay.
And then mindset, I cheated and I gave myself 2 numbers because I would say that at the beginning of the year, my mindset was a 5.
Okay.
And I would say come like March, April, it became an 8.
I think consistency was that way too. The early.
So this went, these two were correlated.
About me here, sister. You can talk
Right.
about your own. It's probably true. I was like,
Oh no, these are similar. And he's like, hey. Across the board of our business
true.
changed
Very true.
very
Yeah.
dramatically in the last 3 months.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that's very fair.
Anyone have comments on that? Questions?
I just like how, it's like, it takes time for someone to like be in that. Like, you said that you weren't always like this, right? And it just takes time. So, I mean, encouraging to see that someone can like start looking that way. So,
No, absolutely.
I would say though, no matter what scale your business is at, I've always been a freak about the numbers. And I've always been a freak about,
Hold on one second.
yeah.
No, you're not you, just before you erase it.
And then also the financials. Because I think that in the seasons of my business where my business and my mindset have struggled, it's because I was, and I watched agents do this when I was leading a market center. It's like, when we make hay and if things are good, the minute, and I see this with my own agents, I don't think she'll care I'm saying this, but recently Alyssa had something where her client and the seller, the client with the buyer, were arguing over $1,000 check for patio furniture. And Alyssa was so frustrated. She's like, I'm just gonna pay the $1,000 check. And I used some language I won't use now, but said, no, you're not. And just said, this is literally a bunch of millionaire clients being petty. And this is how you're going to control the situation forward. And it took 2 emails and the situation resolved itself. The buyer paid $1,000. But how many of us do stuff like that when business is good? Like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a couple $100. I do it too. Like, don't get me wrong, but that's shifted a lot in the last couple of years because our profit margins affect everything that we do moving forward. So when I change it from this is just solving a short-term problem to I'm actually teaching my agents how to solve problems if I don't teach them how to fix it and make, no, your client agreed to do this, it's in writing. Your client wants to go to arbitration or something else over, well, it wouldn't be arbitration, but you know what I mean? They want to go to small claims court over $1,000. When your client's an attorney, let her look stupid. Like, that's not our job.
Well, and to that point, you go to the doctor, they give you a bill and you're like, you know what? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with what the test results were. I'm just not going to pay it. Doesn't happen. Even if you're in a restaurant, I mean, you have to like have an allergic reaction or there needs to be something disgusting in your food before something is comped. Am I correct on that? Like, it almost makes you feel awkward in the situation when it even happens. Because you're like, or they'll be like, you know what, I'll just bring you a new one. Right? But to actually get something paid for, which is minimal, which is usually like a $15 entree, right? You have to, usually there's like a manager that has to come out and what was wrong. And I mean, you might as well just be like, I'm just not gonna eat the dang thing. right? Or is somebody else like scam restaurants all the time and it's super easy for them? Because like, and rightfully so, immediately it's like, oh, it's just $1,000.
Well, yeah, because she made a huge commission check, because it was a multi-million-dollar sale, right? So to her thought process, and by the way, I'm sharing this not because she did anything wrong. I think a lot of us do this. Her thought process was, I just made the biggest commission check of my career because it was a $1.9 million sale. So she's like, I don't want to upset my buyer over $1,000. Where my conversation with her was, but your buyer agreed to that. The patio furniture is there. It's not that the product wasn't produced. It was your client's mad because of these other things the sellers did, that closing had to get pushed back later in the day because their boat wasn't out of the dock and all this other stuff. But that doesn't justify not upholding this part of the agreement. And I think her fear was, if she didn't pay it, even though the client never asked her to pay it, this would be the lasting impression in the client's mouth around the transaction, and she wouldn't get referrals or a good review. Which then what we did is we solved the actual problem, which was the client was upset about her movers. We helped her find new movers, and she got a 5-star review. Like, it's like, but it's just having those people in your world, whether you're on a team or not, like walking down the hall and talking to another agent. But keeping our financials accountable is something I think I see agents go back and forth on a lot, including myself.
I think that's fair. I think we all have done that. I think we've all been in a position or, you know, where you, okay, fine, I'll just go buy that. I'll buy the home warranty. Forget it. I'll just do that. Or you physically go to the property and move something or do something or whatever it is, right? And it's like, oh, but I'll go above and beyond. I have my thoughts on that, but. All right, who else wants to share?
I can share mine.
Right.
I know that I'm behind on my goals for this year, so there's that.
Okay.
What did I do really well the first 6 months? I thought I was really good at being consistent and coming into the office and just kind of put my head down.
Okay.
Then what is something that you can change going into the last 6 months? Just keep posting open houses every week and getting in front of people.
Okay, so an open house each week?
Which I've been doing the last 2 months now, and it's been good. So
Awesome. Okay, so effort, consistency, then mindset.
yeah. So effort. I'm trying to be hard on myself right now because I'm behind on my goals. So I'm just trying to be like very blunt with myself and like tell the room. I gave myself a 5 out of 10.
Okay. What does that mean? Like, what do you mean? You just said a lot of things in a very small amount of time. Like,
Yeah. So even though I'm consistent in coming in here, I think that I get distracted or,
Okay. So maybe the efficiency of coming in and what you're going to be doing, like, okay. Okay.
Consistency, I give myself a 6.
And in what way? Because here we were doing great, right? That was a positive. So what are you saying about consistency here? Are you thinking more lead gen here versus just coming into the office?
Lead gen, that's what I was thinking about, but also, consistency with like early on, like early in the year,
Yep.
not doing as many open houses as I wanted to.
Okay.
That's
So
why-
actually putting a plan on how you're going to lead gen together, and it's not, doesn't have to just be calls, it's like, you're putting a plan in place. Okay, and mindset.
Funny enough, I actually gave myself 2 scores like Bethany did before she said it out loud. So at the beginning of the year, I gave myself a 4, and right now I put myself at a 7. So.
You can have a 7.
Okay.
7 is that like neutral number that you're like, oh,
Okay.
it's not good, it's not bad.
I'm in a much better mindset than I was before.
Okay, what shifted here?
Um,
I mean, that's a pretty dramatic shift.
yeah, so doing more open houses and getting more clients from the open houses and like actually seeing like fruit from the labor. Even though that no transactions have come from it, or it's still something positive that has come from the effort, so.
Okay. Anyone else? Derek,
Oh,
oh, I love this.
sure.
Do you find it helpful though to be like, okay, this is where we're at mid-year, and then we're gonna go over what the actual numbers are? And it's gonna kind of come together why some of these numbers are where they're at, right? And there's times where like, okay, I can be super consistent, but that means I have to up what I'm doing in the effort level, right? Like if I used to do 10 calls a day, now I need to do 20. And that might not even be, you might not have known that, but when you look at some of the numbers that have been happening, I think you're gonna be surprised at what they look like across the board. For listings, for pendings, in regards to, and yet last month we had record-breaking month for our office and our agent. So there is a reason why I think this is the story, right? All right, Derek.
All right. So first, we are tracking to goal for the year.
Okay, so you're on pace.
Like, call it 55% of goal.
Okay.
Okay. And I thought something that I did well, or that we did well, was capitalizing on opportunities.
Ooh, tell me more about that.
I'd say like putting things together that, were able to be put together. I mean, if that makes sense. Is that too
You're like
simple?
building Legos over here or what's going on? Just kidding.
Right?
Well, I know I know what you're talking about, but what were you doing to make that come together? That comes from, what is your tactic for that?
Right. I think that like continuing to keep working on the deals or the opportunities that we have and like working through them to completion, whereas in other years or times, there've just been deals that have fallen apart or gone away that that probably could have come together had I either known more or known differently or seen it from a different perspective.
At the beginning of the year, remember you telling me saying, I need to do better at following
Yeah.
up. Because so these are from your letters or your calls, right?
Right.
So you get them to like, here's the finish line over here, here's the start. You get them to like here.
Right.
And then this was the follow-up part
Right.
that you were like, I could have probably had more deals if I would have just followed up with those.
Right.
Because they were primed to either sell or somebody else came in and you just stopped here for whatever reason.
Right.
Can I ask a question? I relate to that a lot, and I've learned that the follow-up isn't my forte, so I've always heard you solve your problems with a system or a person. So like for me, it's people. I just offload the opportunity faster to our agents.
That was the delegating part for you.
So with you, is that a system or a person?
This portion.
I think it could be, maybe it could be both, right? Because there are definitely things that I will choose not to do if they are things or conversations or people that I maybe don't want to spend time with or don't want to spend time working on. And yeah,
The question on this, what is it? You usually use 10,000 for your average commission,
Yeah.
right? So that's any of these opportunities, probably 10,000,
yeah.
right? How many of those last year do you think that you let go away because it stopped here?
Well, I think probably greater than 100,000 in GCI was like, just kind of like stuff that either didn't completely come together or fell apart or got delayed.
Okay.
And not like, hey, let's close this in February. This is like, you know what, maybe we're gonna take our listing opportunity and go sell that in 25 or something like
I appreciate this because this is so real. I guarantee there's other people in this room or on this call that have done the exact same thing. That it's probably at least 100,000 in commission because of this gap right here.
For sure, north of us.
Like this gap, which is legitimately the follow-up. We all get really excited. It's kind of like a drug, right? We're like, oh, we got the appointment, went on the appointment, they didn't sign. You forgot about it. Right? And then it's like, okay, I got the appointment, they didn't sign, you forgot about it. I can say the same thing with recruiting agents. And then all of a sudden I'll see online, they went to wherever, and I was like, I haven't talked to them consistently because I got the appointment, they weren't ready, and I didn't keep the follow-up, right? We're all in that same place, and yet you could be making at least $100,000 more. And it doesn't matter if you've never made that ever in your career, you probably still have done it. Whether or not it's an open house lead that you're like, oh, they didn't answer my second call. How many people do that? Like you called them and then you kind of forgot about, you're like, and then you go back and you look at this open house sheet from 8 months ago and you're like, oh yeah, do you remember Cheryl? Oh, I'm gonna call Cheryl now. Oh yeah, we moved last month. I know it's happened to me.
that. I used to keep all my leads in here, basically, you know, and I found that taking them into my contact management system, that just, it like, well, it tells me when to make the follow-up call, and I don't know, I consider myself like a 1 in the 4th category on remembering to do stuff like that, and just putting it in front of myself, like, oh yeah, I need to call Trudy or whatever, and like having it show up consistently, because I'm never afraid to make the calls. It's more like remembering to make the call after, 60 days or 2 months, or I guess that is 60 days.
I mean, if it's in a notebook like this, let's be really fair. How many people have like a notebook that have like 6 different to-do lists? Right? You don't ever go back to that page that had the to-do list from 3 weeks ago.
The $10,000 posted.
You just don't, right? So then it's like, when you do is when you're coming from a place of lack and you're like, I'm gonna go through all my old leads because I have nothing right now. So let's go back through those. Great tactic, don't get me wrong. But half of those ones you're gonna go back over in 6 months, 12 months are gone for that now business, right? Because they were probably hot buyers then, or at least a 3 to 6 months. So now it's like, now they bought, they can still go into your contacts, but it's gonna be like 2 years down the road or more, right?
I also, one other thing on that is
The reason I was asking that, because I kind of knew this was the piece of that
Yeah.
you had chatted about.
One other thing that took place is I also kind of cut some people out of my system. Clients or potential clients and some past clients who've done a lot of transactions with me. And I didn't feel like I was being appreciated. And
You know your value
well,
and where your time is needed.
I had put 10 years into a client who sold his house last summer with another agent after we had talked about it, and we went to dinner and talked about it. And he ended up listing like well below what I thought the property could sell for. And he did it because the guy was charging like 5% or something like that. And it made me very frustrated, and I'm sure it's my fault. And I'm just done with it. I'm not gonna deal with relationships like that. So
Fair. Fair.
nothing else, I feel better. Less money, but.
Number 3.
Lead gen more consistently. And I said, as a part 2 of that, I said, focus on units to boost activity. Because I think,
Did I get it?
Yes, yes. So then I would focus on units to boost activity because I know how, just doing units ends up getting momentum going that ends up pushing more and more. So
Awesome. All right, so effort out of 10.
6.
And is that the lead gen portion, the follow-up portion? There's room for improvement.
Yeah, there's room for improvement. I mean, I'm here all the time. And yet I'm not always working as hard as I should be. When
Or
I'm,
efficient.
yeah, well, sometimes I just sit in there. So, as long as we're being transparent.
Music.
That's fine, it's fun music.
Yeah. Consistency is 6
Okay,
and mindset is 8.
do you want to have comments, questions on that?
How attached are you to your goal?
Oh, I want to hit it.
Just asking.
Yeah. I mean, it isn't do or die.
Are you enjoying the process to get there?
All the way from the back.
Oh, you're here.
Join the chat.
Oh.
What was your question?
Are you enjoying the process to get there? That's like Jake's leadership classes.
Yeah, I'm enjoying selling real estate this year. Mhm.
I think I would say it seems like you're enjoying selling real estate more this year than you have in the last few years.
I think so.
Wonder why.
Yeah, right?
I mean, sometimes it's in the people, not just the systems.
Right?
But I think that's a fair thing though. Like that's very fair is who you're working with and what you do want and why the goal is important can be very different depending on who's doing it with you. Very different. And I think that, you know, going back to anything, it is truly always about the people. Whether
Right.
they're on your team or it's your clients, and you spoke to that. The ones that don't appreciate my time, I'm not letting them suck any more of my energy out. And I think that's important no matter what financial state you're in, because it will hold you back long-term. Like even if you need that client right now, they're gonna suck everything out of you for all the other opportunities that you might have around you.
And the reason I'm not just trying to pick on Derek, but whenever I see like effort and consistency lower than mindset, I think there's two questions. How attached are you to the goal? Because sometimes I think people just actually aren't attached to the goal. Not saying you're not, just saying in seasons of my life, it's been because I'm actually just not attached and it's a goal for a goal's sake. And then it's, okay, so if your mindset's an 8, which is, I think, great, what needs to change in your thinking to have your effort and consistency match your mindset?
So I'd say, on the attachment to the goal, I'm attached to the goal for Emily to make the amount of money that she wants to make this year. More so than I am like what the money, like me needing more money. And I mean, as long as we're talking about. And that's like what I really want for the second half of the year is for her business to be in a place where she's comfortable with it and she's hitting the goals and reaping the rewards of real estate because that's what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for not calling people in order.
You know, I can't be as perfect as others, so my mistake.
You know, I think it's important to just pause for a minute on who you're working with because when times are good, you have somebody to share that with, you know, so Bethany has an entire team, like people or whoever, all those ladies. You know, Derek's got one person, you know, we got 3. But you have to have someone, because in the good times, you have someone to share that with, and it enhances the experience. It's kind of like going to Disney World by yourself. Yay, Mickey, this was fun, but you know, you're not sharing it with anyone.
So
But on
fun.
the other hand, I think that when times are not good, that is extremely important to have somebody by your side as well. Because when things don't go well, you're gonna need somebody that's there to support you. And maybe Derek's mindset was at an 8, and then he gets knocked down to a 5. You know, but Emily's riding a wave that keeps her at an 8. Well, then you can, you know, help each other and balance each other out. So this is an encouragement piece to don't do it alone. You know, and whether it's just joining with, you know, you have your individual business, which is great, it's solo. You know, let's say Kevin's running his own business, just make sure that you are communicating with other people in the office, and you do have those other people that are experiencing that success and then helping you through the challenges as well.
Well, and to that piece, I mean, this might be his mindset right now. If I ask this on a down day and you're like, what's your mindset overall? You might have been like, oh, it's a 6. We talked about this when Kevin brought this up about where are you in the day? Like, what percentage are you at for the day? Are you at 100% today? Or are you, you know, I'm running at about 20%. Right? And when you ask these questions, it can be different depending on what mindset you're in. A lot of us were having fun, relaxed of the week, like holiday time, right? So these might be higher than they would have been if this would have been a month ago when you were in the trenches and hadn't had a break for 2 months, right? Like those numbers can be very different because they're so subjective on what's going on in your mind at the moment.
I'd say
Fair?
I came into the office today at like a 3 on mindset too, because my family time bucket was overflowing from the weekend. And I was like, man, like I just want to get back and do what I do.
So it went from a 3 to
Yeah.
an 8 in 3 hours. Right? So I mean, it's Emily.
Right. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the actual number. So I'm sure you guys were kind of looking at this. What do you see in here? When we're taking a look at for the month of May, right? So sales price decreased in regards to median sales price. Days on market increased by quite a bit, quite honestly. Percent of original list price actually decreased. And then month supply of homes for sale increased in May. Which, when you're saying 35%, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's pretty substantial compared to what it's been the last few years. So what do you see? And then, you know, then you take a look at just for June, right? So that was May. Listings decreased in June again, pending sales decreased, and inventory decreased. But it still decreased by 1/3 of what it increased by in May. So I mean, you're still up by a little over 20%. Are you guys feeling this portion? Because June was legitimately a record-breaking month for our office.
I did see like just different, you know, searches and stuff that I keep track on for personal reasons, but I did see like a lot more listings.
So let's go to the
I'm like,
next
oh my
slide.
gosh, that's kind of fun to see. Like others, it's been like 0, 1.
What does that look like though? Like when we think of this is a year ago, right? So we were consistently going up in listings and it went up, it peaked, and then now we're going back down. And then it was like, oh, yeah, we got some listings. Oh, no,
That's in new listings, or sorry, what's the dark line?
this one is current activity. This is this year. Dark line is this year. This was a year ago.
Each point is a month.
It's a week.
It's a week.
Each one is a week. Yeah.
So in the week of June 5th through June 12th,
Yeah, right here.
we had the largest amount of price reductions in that week. It increased by 20% over the 7-county metro.
Which is interesting because that's also the most, that was an increase of listings going on the market.
Well, I think what happened,
Did you say a decrease in prices that week?
We saw,
Price
so
reductions.
the week prior, actually every week prior, we've seen roughly we track all this every week. So May 8th, we had 690 listings do a price reduction. Then it was 830 the next week. Then it was 834 the next week. Then the next week it was 1013. Every week prior to 1013 though, it had been roughly 800 or 600 or 700. That's a 20% increase in price reduction. My guess is the experienced agents saw all the new stuff coming on. And if they had been on,
Yep.
boom, they did a price reduction.
And that's a tactic that people don't know about, right? That it was from
We track
way
everything.
back when, right? It's because then you know, and the gap in that though is now you see the coming soon. Right? So not only like before, it was like you had active, it was on, and all of a sudden you're like, the search comes up, you're listing. That seller is like, hey, my neighbor's house went on and it's 10,000 less than us. Now you're behind the gap on that, right? Because now you're catching, you're kind of chasing that market. If you're actually looking at the coming soons, you can price reduce before anyone can even put an offer on that house. As a listing agent, are we doing that? Do we have coming soon searches out and not just active searches? Because really that would be what you'd want to do is you want to see what's coming soon. Where's that coming on at? Which is usually giving you at least a 3-day period of time, right? Hey, you can now have a real conversation with your sellers and say, hey, 123 Main Street down the street's coming on $25,000 less. I don't know what it exactly looks like inside, but these were the previous pictures, right? What would you like to do so that we're in, you know, kind of the driver's seat versus following them when they come on the market? Proactively versus reactively. And yes, it's slightly reactive, but nobody can see the property when it's coming soon. And that's exactly why those price reductions came. Once that new inventory comes on, that's what's going to hit every buyer's search engine first. And I guarantee if those are great listing agents, they're priced at or lower if your house has been on the market for more than 14 days. Guarantee it. Would you guys agree with that?
The other number I think is really interesting is right now, the Twin Cities region, we're pending about 1,600 homes a week.
Okay, go to the next slide. So this is interesting because last year was like, plateau, you know what I mean? It was kind of this constant. We shot up from, April, right? All the way until mid-May, dropped, and then we kind of did this weird thing and we went back up again. And now what do you see as we're going into July? It's lower. Pending sales are lower. I mean, we're looking at what our pending sales are for July right now in this market center, and they're a heck of a lot lower than what they are for closed units last month. And the interesting thing is we've been tracking, right? Contracts written. And what has our conversation been month after month after month? We've been getting outpaced by the market, and that hasn't been gaining. Obviously, it caught up over time, right? Because we had some probably new other sales that were coming in June. But if pending sales are going down and we haven't caught up with that, we have to take market share in order to get pending sales without following the market. And then that's, if we're going to go back to where are we at on our goal, Derek's pacing, but, and you're on par. But if you're not, and we're watching these sales go down, you got to do something drastically different in your lead gen to make sure that you're outpacing the market. Because you're not going to catch up to your goal if these are the numbers, right? And that's not scary. That's just knowing, hey, I need to lead gen twice as much to get twice as many appointments. Do you guys have any comments on this? So let's go to the next slide. And the reason I'm asking if you have comments on this is inventory of homes for sale. There's not a dip in that, guys. What does that mean? I mean, it could mean something amazingly positive for all the buyers that stepped out of the market because they didn't want to go into multiple offers, right? We might be able to have, quote unquote, a more balanced market, right? However, in that situation, what usually happens? Tell you, next slide. What happened?
Market goes up.
So when we talk about pendings, we talk about our income. And I know we don't like talking about income versus we're helping families, but let's be very honest. Your income when days on market goes up by 65% to 38 days. That means not only is that 38 days, that's probably another 45-day close because the 30-day closes probably aren't happening. So now every single piece of business that you have is not a 30-day turn anymore, right? Because consistently we're under 45 days for most. From contract to close was less than 45 days. Would we agree? Okay, so now you got a buyer or you got a seller, their house is already on the market for 38 days. Now it finally went under contract. Now we've got another 30 days, so we're at 68 days right now for that piece of business. Are we making sure that as we're going into the next seasons to look at this? Did anyone else know that the days on market were up to 38 days now? I think the last time we talked about it, it was like 18 or 24.
I didn't know the specific number, but I've noticed that they're on my saved searches and auto emails, homes are on there a little bit longer,
Yeah,
a lot more compared to what they were. So
I think if you look at like this graph compared to the one on the slide prior, you see that as inventory started to rise last year in the summer, I know that last year in the late summer and fall, we saw prices decline.
Yep.
And you were starting to see some negotiation happen again. And then like January, well, it might be February of 23, you can see that the days on market all of a sudden just drops off. And that was the point, or maybe beginning of January was the point where all of that existing inventory started to sell off. And then all of a sudden we get right back to, thousands of dollars over list price, immediate offers on listings as they hit the market because of the availability. And I think it was maybe 2 slides ago where you saw that this year we're in the 7,000s as far as total available inventory versus 8,000 in the 8,000s last year in total available inventory. So
I mean, your plan just has to change, right? When you're talking to buyers and sellers, what you're saying is the plan has to change because before it was like, you need to go in here, you don't have very much inventory. This is what's happening. If you're not telling your sellers this, I guarantee that ride is going to be awful, right? Because if they're still under the impression that their house is going to sell in 2 weeks, you are going to have a call every 2 days. Why do I not have any showings? Where are the offers? Right? So in conjunction to this portion, you can look up book a showing and see the showings in that specific area as like a report. So if you're like, hey, I have a house between 350 and 400 and you take it to 25,000 each, you can see that the 350 gets 8 showings, or there's 8 showings available and there's 4 houses, right? So you're averaging 2 showings over 2 weeks period of time, but 375 to 400, there's 1 house and there's still 8 showings. They're getting 8 showings over 2 weeks period of time.
I think when
That's
you,
strategy, right?
I think when you compare this number along with the price adjustment number, you can look at and talk to your clients about, it's really important that we
Price it right.
price it right.
Yeah.
Because the times that you do price it right, you still can get your days on market less than 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Heather, can you go to the next 2 slides? We'll do it kind of in conjunction, right? So we'll go to the other one. It's the
Sorry.
last one, and then we'll go to this. So it went up a little bit, right? But now we're back down. I mean, not by a lot, but it's trending down. So then you go look to the next. Okay, so price to original list price. This is going down because of the price reductions or the price improvement, right? And then once that price improvement happens, yeah, we might be able to get multiple offers or we might be able to get it back up, maybe. Otherwise, now people think they can negotiate. If you only have 1 offer, you better believe that that buyer is gonna try to negotiate. Would you agree? That's about all we have time for. Since it's 12 o'clock. You guys have any questions on this? I would highly encourage, if you don't look at these numbers, go take a look at what's going on. And if you're very specific on your neighborhood, go check that out. Go see what the days on market are, go see what the average list price is or median sales price is, and what it takes percentage to original list price. Because it's gonna make you the actual local economist for every buyer and seller that you have. And it's also gonna allow you to figure out what your second half of the year is gonna look like and what you have to do differently. Because if we're talking 68 days, potentially, right, for closings, I'm hoping that you have more clients then to help combat that. Because when you have that amount of time, more deals fall apart too. All right, anybody have listings or buyer needs? All right, if not, send them to Lydia and she will send them out at the end of the day. Otherwise, have a good one.
Taking a popcorn for the road.
Please, take popcorn.